What's up, guys? Welcome to 5 Wide Fantasy, the OwnersBox Fantasy Football Show. Today's video, must draft running backs. It's an early look. We're still a ways away, but these are probably some guys for me that I can't see myself not drafting considering their average draft position right now. Maybe that'll change, maybe it won't. But if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Join our Discord. Link will be down below in the description. Boys, let's get started. I'm really excited to hear from you. Cole, give me one of your two must-draft running backs for the video.
Yeah, so firstly, I have David Montgomery, who first has the easiest strengths of schedule for running backs out of last season and the fantasy points they averaged.
Setting the tone here. I like this.
Yeah, he was the running back 19 last season despite only playing 13 games, and he played in a terrible offense last year with the Bears just sucked in general last season. And he should be in a better offense with more scoring opportunities this season. And he's currently being drafted as the running back 22, and I think he'll finish as a top 15, 17 running back.
Now, I don't want to get on you, but what makes you think they'll be any better?
New offensive coordinator, Fields in his second season, more experience.
Yeah. I think they're...
Matt Nagy not there.
Matt Nagy not there helps.
He takes the offense backwards.
Yes.
No matter in any position, whether you're a quarterback, receiver, or running back. So I really like that. I like David Montgomery a lot. He's I have a man crush on him for whatever reason. I like the Cyclones. I like Iowa State.
I think it's just because no matter how good the team is, he's been able to play really well when he's played. He was good last year when he was on the field, really good, like very reliable guy to start week in and week out. I think that'll still be the case, but maybe without Matt Nagy, I'm hoping Fields takes a step, but they didn't have draft capital to use this year. I remember they took the 24-year-old wide receiver out of Tennessee that people were all over the Bears about because they just don't have the ability to really invest in any of their skill positions. So Montgomery, I think, is still going to play a heavy role in the passing game too, considering that like the part where there's just not really many pass catchers for Fields to work with.
Another note, when in games Fields played last season, he had 5.5 targets a game, up from his 3 when Fields didn't play. So.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, with the cast of misfits of quarterbacks he had when Fields was not on the field.
Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to draft him, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
Who are you leaning on, Ryan?
One guy I'm looking at for like in the couple first rounds is Josh Jacobs. I really like Josh Jacobs this year. You know, he's in an interesting spot because 2020 he was viewed from fantasy managers as like a disappointment to a certain extent after his rookie season. I think a lot of people had high hopes for him. Yeah. He was averaging around 15 to 16 fantasy points per game. And so heading into 2021 season last year, his ADP was really low, almost the 4th or 5th round. And then we saw similar numbers to the 2020 season, around 15, 16. And then so people saw value in him. So this year, I think his ADP and where he's being drafted is the same, similar, around the 3rd or 4th round. But I think he has a lot more upside this year for a few reasons. One, the Raiders O-line really did struggle last year, and it didn't make a ton of adjustments, but one key thing is Alex Leatherwood, the Alabama first-round pick they took last year. He had a really bad year, but he was playing tackle instead of guard. And now with Dylan Parham, who they've got, who's going to be able to slot in, I think he'll be utilized in a much more efficient way, which will help seal the edge and help Jacobs find the holes a little bit better. And then Derek Carr has 2 massive weapons now with Darren Waller and Davante Adams. I think that's going to take a huge focus away from Josh Jacobs in that offense. Derek Carr was throwing the ball 35 to 40 times. I don't think he's actually going to have to throw the ball as much because I don't think they're going to be trailing as much going into this season. I think their offense is going to be a lot more efficient. I think he'll be able to run the ball a lot more efficiently. So that's why Josh Jacobs is a guy I'm targeting around the 3rd-ish round. You know, he's the RB 20 right now, but I could see him being a top 15 running back this year in fantasy.
I am terrified of the Fresno State connection. Like Devontae, just watching the Packers offense last year with Aaron Rodgers, there could be a ball on the 1-yard line and A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones weren't touching it.
That's what okay.
Like, is Davante Adams going to steal all of, like, the offense is going to be better, I think. I think we all think that. But that should lead to more scoring opportunities for Jacobs. But I'm terrified of Davante Adams stealing those away from him.
You know, that's definitely something to worry about. But I think it'll actually give Josh Jacobs a little bit more maybe space in the red zone because there's that they're gonna have to focus so much attention on Davante Adams. It goes back to my other point. And Jacobs can be that receiving back. We've seen it in the past. Like his targets have been up there to the 4 or 5 range in a lot of games last year and the year before that. And a lot of people are saying that Zamir White and Kenyon Drake are going to be guys that are going to be in here. But
had a quote where he was talking this past week about how he's excited about and wanting those guys to get more involved in the offense.
So the one thing was
crazy to say.
Yeah, but you know what? From his perspective, I guess you can kind of see that. Like, I don't think he's going to get 30 carries a game. Josh Jacobs, you know?
Definitely.
And the one thing with Zamir White, he's had 2 ACL injuries, so he's not going to be relied, especially in his rookie year. I don't know how much they're going to be using him.
Yeah.
And Kenyon Drake, I've always thought Kenyon Drake was pretty overrated, even when he was with Miami, was with Arizona. I've never been a huge fan of him, so that's also a reason why I think he's kind of going to take a backseat to Jacobs as he starts to roll early on in the season.
Okay. All right. Well, I need somebody to tell me why I should not be drafting Miles Sanders. Comments, let me know, because I can't figure this out. He's the running back 27 in consensus right now. If he is going to continue to go in the 6th round, which I don't think he will when August comes, he's going to be on every single one of my teams. Right now I have him ranked as my running back 18. The offense, this was the craziest offensive scheme change I've ever seen in the NFL last year. They were number 1 in rushing play percentage last year, okay? Almost 50%, 49.9%. But in weeks 1 to 7, they were 19th in rushing play percentage at 39%. So weeks 8 to 18 took them from 19th in the NFL heading into week 8 to 1st in the NFL, above the Tennessee Titans. This team ran the ball a considerable amount. Now Jalen Hurts is there. He's going to steal, scoring opportunities inside the 5 at the goal line. That's going to keep Miles Sanders from like RB1 upside. Everybody's worried about the injuries. They're thinking that this is just going to continue year after year. He's never going to get a healthy season. Look, Miles Sanders was extremely efficient when he was on the field. He was 5th in breakaway run rate. What that means, if you're not familiar with the stat, is rushing attempts that went 15 yards or more. So on the percentage of his runs, I think it was over 8%, 5th in the NFL. So when he got the ball, he was explosive. He averaged 5.5 yards per carry, just as much as Nick Chubb, just as much as Jonathan Taylor last year. I absolutely love Miles Sanders because I don't think the addition of A.J. Brown is going to change the scheme itself and how often they're running the football. I think they brought in A.J. Brown to make them better when they do throw it, but I don't think that he is going to require them to change the offense and throw the ball more, because that is not how Jalen Hurts helps them win football games. It's not by throwing the ball a lot. I love Miles Sanders because he comes into an offense in the running back position as well with Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, and an undrafted free agent, Kennedy Brooks. Gainwell was given all the opportunity in the world last year to have some sort of impact on Sanders' role, wasn't able to take advantage. I think Boston Scott is a guy that's been around, is someone very replaceable that, yeah, he'll step in if Sanders does eventually miss time, if that happens, which maybe it will for 1 or 2 games. But as long as Sanders, who didn't score a touchdown last season, finds positive regression in that stat, which we've seen from guys like Austin Eckler, I absolutely love Miles Sanders. Like, I absolutely love him.
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see that too. And I think bringing in A.J. Brown, for sure, for one, takes pressure off of the running backs, whether it's Jalen Hurts or Miles Sanders running the ball. And I talked about it a little bit in our running back rankings. A.J. Brown is a terrific run blocker, and he fits into a lot of different schemes. That it could be a disguise run or a disguise pass, and he can be on the field for all different types of snaps. So I think adding A.J. Brown to their repertoire is a huge addition.
Yeah, that's huge.
I'm drafting Miles Sanders in all my drafts too.
I think it's going to change. It
has to go up at this point. Yeah.
All right, last ones, fellas. Let's hear what else you have.
Yeah, so I have Cordarrelle Patterson, who was the biggest surprise in 2021, finishing as the RB9 on the season after being drafted outside of the top 50. And from weeks 1 to 14, he was actually the RB7, averaging 15.8 fantasy points a game before they turned him more into a traditional running back and started lining him up out wide less. Which they've said next season they're going to bring him back to the hybrid role where he's lining up out wide in the backfield because they have a new running back now, Tyler Algier, that they're going to be using. And last season, he averaged almost 5 targets a game and was averaging 6 when he was used in that hybrid role. And he has a 25% target rate per route run, which is the highest in the entire NFL over Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, and everyone. And their offense, again, next year is going to have no one else, no one to rely on. Their best option is a rookie receiver in Drake London. So I think the volume will be there for him too. And I think he has top 15 or 20 upside, and he's currently being drafted as the RB 41. So
yeah, he's definitely it's a guy that I think is tough to get behind. I wasn't willing to pick him up last year. Did you guys pick him up in any league?
I didn't have him in any of my leagues. No, I missed it. Late. Yeah, I was too late. I missed the hype train, and I didn't really believe in the hype train because I was a huge Patterson fan when he was got drafted by Minnesota, and he had his first couple games with Minnesota. He was great because he was returning punts and kicks for touchdowns, and then he was working in this hybrid role in the Minnesota offense, and then they pushed him away from that role for whatever reason, and then he's only become fantasy relevant now.
Yeah, we're talking about like Zacchaeus and Brian Edwards at the wide receiver position. So I do think Patterson's definitely being overlooked because Arthur Smith's still the play caller. He worked with him last year. You said Drake London obviously is the rookie, but also Kyle Pitts is still there. We know that. He's an elite player at the position. But Patterson with an offensive line that's the worst in the NFL, and now Marcus Mariota, whose average depth of target in his last season as a starter was like outside the top 25. We could be looking at a lot of checkdowns for Cordarrelle Patterson. That's for sure. Go ahead.
So mine, I don't think it necessarily is like fading your Cole's pick because I think there's roles in this offense for both of these players to have efficient seasons and especially fantasy seasons.
I'm going to put my foot down. There's absolutely no way that we're going to have Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Cordarrelle Patterson, and Tyler Algier all be fantasy relevant. So I want you to be like, okay, Tyler Algier, get out of here, Cordarrelle Patterson. We don't need you.
This is the whole thing with Tyler Algier. Right now, he's ranked as like the RB 50. Like he's being taken much later in drafts. I just think he should start be taking a little bit earlier in maybe that 10th or 9th round spot. Someone to either stash as a running back or even to play as a backup role to Cordarrelle Patterson, barring any injuries that he will or can suffer. I guess you could say. And the reason being too. I think there's value in targeting these ambiguous, thank you, backfields when you don't necessarily know what's going to unfold. Because fantasy managers don't know how to value them, and they can't really value them when they're drafting. So it's hard to judge really what the Falcons' offense is going to look like at this point and where his initial value lies. And I'm personally ranking his initial value as a little bit lower because of how he produced at BYU and the style of runner He's a short, stocky, who can really push through, and he's a really hard-hitting running back that can get a lot of yards after contact. In his last 2 seasons at BYU, he led all NCAA running backs in yards after contact with over 1,800 yards. That's an outstanding stat, and he played an offense that was high-flying and moved the ball a ton. So I think that will also add a certain factor to this Falcons offense if he starts to get implemented more. The reason I said why there's maybe two areas where Algier and Patterson can kind of fluctuate together is I think Algier can be a really good early down running back. Cordarrelle Patterson will obviously be in that hybrid role where he's filling in for third downs and even in the slot. But I think Algier will be able to succeed in that first and second, and then even on the goal line too. Like I said, he's like 230 pounds. He's stocky. He's really, really strong. He's not a super athletic guy, but he's an explosive. But he has been able to do that in the NCAA. It's just we're going to be able to see that early on if his explosiveness is going to translate to the NFL. So that's why I think he's something you should be drafting later on in your rounds to kind of stash and see what happens with this Falcons offense. Because I think at this point the value lies in I don't know, and who knows is sometimes a risk that you have to take in fantasy.
Yeah. Do you have anything on him, Cole? Are you thinking?
I mean, I somewhat agree with Cordarrelle Patterson's ADP, as I was saying, it was 41. A big reason for that is Tyler Algier. A lot of people are thinking that he's going to take a big role from Patterson, and he's going to take a lot of touches and rushes, and he might become that first down back, that between the tackles back.
I think Algier is going to be worth. I like Algier, like you're saying. I liked watching him play at BYU. I just think he might be worthless just because it's going to be a bad offense.
That could very well be it.
But again, he's late. It's not like we're.
I'm not telling you don't take him in the 5th or 6th round or like at this point maybe over Cordarrelle Patterson because I don't think that's where his value necessarily lies. But a guy who averaged 7.5 yards per carry in his junior year and just around 6 yards per carry last year in offense that didn't feature Zach Wilson, I think is something that you can definitely take a chance on later on in the round. So he's a must draft for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'll drop the last one here. I do have a full written preview or a written article on Sanders, actually Cordarrelle Patterson as well, because I do like Patterson, and this guy Cam Akers. So article will be down below in the description as well. Cam Akers, my running back 17. That's typically where he's going right now, right around the start of the 4th round. I'd be happy with him as my RB1 if a lot of you guys are, putting an emphasis on maybe one of those top tight ends like a Travis Kelce or a Mark Andrews, and then you want to attack some of these really high-quality wide receivers early on. I'd be happy with Cam Akers being my RB1. He returned from an Achilles injury for the postseason. Everybody saw it, 2.4 yards per carry. He was terrible. The efficiency was awful. But the running game is a crucial part of Sean McVay's offense, and that is not going to change. And this offense is basically the same in the running back room. We've got Darrell Henderson back. Kyron Williams broke his foot this offseason. They're one of their draft picks out of Notre Dame. And then Jake Funk, who will never see an NFL field as an offensive player.
You never know. He's a special team stud.
Emergency situations, I guess he'll always be dressed to play special teams. But what do you think of this, fellas? I saw a tweet from a guy, Cameron De Silva, blue check mark tweet. Okay. Cam Akers didn't take a vacation this offseason and has been at the Rams facility every day at 8 a.m.
He's going to be exhausted.
You could say he's a little motivated.
But you know what? If you're working out all summer long, Ryan, not taking a break on his body.
Listen, Ryan, I don't know. If Cam Akers didn't take a vacation after a 6-month timetable recovering from an Achilles injury, winning a Super Bowl, and you took a vacation 2 months after starting here, this kind of speaks to his character.
Human beings need breaks in their life. Cam Akers is going to be tired 6 weeks in the season, and who knows, maybe his Achilles isn't even fully healed at this point. It might never well be. So
you never know.
I don't know. Cam Akers scares me. I love Cam Akers because he was he was really highly recruited coming out of high school. He's like I think in his class, he was the 3rd prospect. He was the number 1 running back. Florida State was just horrible when he was there. I think he does have a lot of upside, but his injuries are a little cause for concern.
Cole, has there ever been a time where you've read this kind of stuff that I said that has you for me, a lot of the time it's like betting, or like when a guy's like guaranteeing that they're going to win a game or something. I'm like, oh, I might have to get behind that. Or like somebody that in this situation, not talking about fantasy, but there's guys who will be like, draft me in fantasy. Who did that? Do you remember somebody did that last year and they stunk? I can't remember who it was.
I know you.
Somebody in the comments will remind me. It was funny, but there's been situations where I've done this purely from that. But getting back to Sean McVay, the value for his offense in the running back position for fantasy, I can't underestimate. Sony Michel last year was 4th in red zone rushing attempts. Him and Darrell Henderson combined, if you look at their carries inside the 5, would be tied for 2nd. They're running the ball a lot in these really highly valuable situations for fantasy and scoring. I think Akers is going to have a really good year. And I know we don't have the proven track record of recovering from an Achilles injury, so that's certainly a concern, but I think that's baked into his ADP.
I'm going to say one last thing about Tyler Algier.
Oh, no. Okay.
And it's a bold prediction, okay? I think Tyler Algier will have a better rookie season and fantasy season than Breece Hall.
That's fucking insane.
No.
That's insane.
You're betting on 2 really shitty teams in that sense because Jets are Falcons are probably worse. But neither do I. And I don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. But I think Algier is going to find his role in this.
Come
join
the Discord and at OwnersBox Sura on the Discord.
Yeah, and destroy me. Destroy me. Get in. Let's hear it. Yes. I want to hear all the heat before Algier has one of the top rookie seasons of the year. I'll say that more quiet because I don't want to compare that.
That was crazy. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, if you enjoyed, comment down below. And again, we have our full fantasy rankings, tons of fantasy content in the blog that'll be down below in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.